When will we get a face reveal? Are you Dutch? Yes, I am Dutch. How old are you? I am 18 years old. What is your work? What's your job? Is it related to biology? Well, currently I don't have a job, but I would love to become a biologist or maybe even an exobiologist. How many jars do you have? One moment. Currently I own 13 closed ecosystems. How many jars do I have? I don't know. 50? Can leeches be in the ecosphere? Well, that depends. It depends on the size of the ecosphere. Obviously, if you have an ecosphere the size of a big pond, well, yes, leeches can live in that ecosphere. If you have such a tiny little ecosphere, well, no, simply no. It also depends on the size of the leech. You have a lot of different species of leeches. Very small leeches should be able to live and thrive in a jar about this size. Depends on the other animals in the ecosphere. If you have a lot of other animals in the ecosphere, well, then the leech can live off those other animals. So it really depends on the size of the ecosphere, the size of the leech, and the other organisms in the ecosphere. So if you're making an ecosphere this size, I would say the chance is pretty big it will do okay for at least a few months. What is your favorite ecosphere? That's a really hard question. I think my favorite ecosphere currently is the brine shrimp ecosphere, simply because I love to watch the brine shrimp swim about and do what they do, and I think it looks nice as well. It's a large, nice big ecosphere. I really like it. I also really love the spring ecosphere because it has such a great big biodiversity, a lot of different animals, interesting animals like the aquatic isopods that I don't have in any other ecosphere. So I really like that ecosphere as well, and it's nice and big, and different plants, and just looks nice. I really like that. But ultimately I think my favorite ecosphere is the first natural ecosphere that I made. I think that that would be this ecosphere, simply because it has well, it was the first ecosphere I made for this channel, so for nostalgic reasons it's my first ecosphere. I think it really looks nice too, and I really like it because, well, it's really old. It's almost a year and a half old now, so it's quite successful, and it underwent a lot of changes in biodiversity, and well, I made a video about the 1 year update about this ecosphere where I explain it a little bit better. So I think ultimately this one is my favorite ecosphere. Do you have any future plans, and what's your goal with YouTube? Well, obviously I do have future plans. Right now I'm in a difficult situation because I noticed that even though I put a lot of hard work and a lot of time in my new videos, they don't get that many views. Now, probably all of you watching this video watch most of every of my videos, so it doesn't really apply to you. But I noticed that when I make a video that has nothing to do with ecospheres, like the ant colony, then it just doesn't get many views. People don't really watch it. But now I'm in the difficult situation where if I make a video about ecospheres, well, people don't really watch those anymore either, because, well, maybe the subject just isn't interesting anymore, and well, maybe I have too many of the same animals in the ecosphere. So I think I have to make some videos with a new concept that don't have anything to do with ecospheres. Those will probably don't get many views. It's going to be a hard time for me and for the channel, but I think it's important for the future of the channel to expand in more topics so I can grow more. I think I've reached the limit of what I can do with this channel if it comes to ecospheres. So my future plans are to make videos about interesting topics in biology that I think are fascinating. Maybe I'll show my face a little bit more too. I always like to watch people's faces. Don't worry, I won't stop making ecosphere videos altogether. It's just not going to be only ecosphere videos anymore. And my ultimate goal with YouTube is for it to be my job, essentially, so it can cover my costs and I don't have to do another job. Yeah. When will you do a video in your native tongue, which I assume is Dutch? Waarschijnlijk nooit. What's your favorite part about making or having an ecosphere? My favorite and most satisfying part about making an ecosphere is, well, making an ecosphere is fun, but having an ecosphere and seeing it develop and seeing the biodiversity change over the course of months, years, that's really fascinating and exciting for me to see a closed ecosystem that I make thrive for over a year with some of my ecospheres and seeing the biodiversity change. Seeing the ecosystem within the jar change and develop, that's the most fun part about having an ecosphere for me. It's also great for watching little critters because, well, quite frankly, they can go anywhere, so that's fun as well, but the development of the ecosystem is definitely my favorite part. What is your hobby? Well, I like to play darts. Boom! Bass. I like to play pinball as well. And of course, watching and making these jars and making videos about these jars is something I really like to do. What inspired you to make ecospheres? What inspired you to start making them? A few years ago, the friend of my cousin was assistant forester, if I'm correct, and he made a lot of closed ecosystems, closed terrariums for clients. So that got me introduced in the subject, and I immediately was fascinated by the subject. To have a closed ecosystem in a jar, I was like, come on man, that makes no sense, how does that even work? So I investigated in the subject and I immediately fell in love with it. And then later on, I think about 2 years ago, I saw a video of Dustin Peck, and he made an ecosphere in a video, and well, and that's when I thought, well, just normal people can make these ecospheres, that's quite cool. And I had, before this YouTube channel, I had another YouTube channel about pinball, and I really enjoyed making videos and posting them to YouTube. So about 1.5 years ago I got pneumonia, so I had nothing to do for a long time, and that's when I decided, well, you know, screw it, I'm gonna do this as well. So I went to the park and I made my first ecosphere, and I made my first ecosphere video, the first video for this channel, and well, that's how it all started. Other than growing a hemp plant, do you partake in any other marijuana related activities? No. If you could shrink and put a big animal into an ecosphere at your house, say a shark or a whale, what would it be and why? That's a really fun question, actually. So if I had to choose one animal, well, that's hard. I think it would be fun to have a little elephant in a jar. I think that's cute. Just have a little elephant walking around, or maybe a few so it doesn't feel lonely. Or a group of killer whales. That sounds cool as well. Just have a group of killer whales swimming in the ecosphere with seals as well, so they have something to eat. Or, you know, actually one of the great cats, like a lion or a tiger, but really small. That I think that's cool as well. If only. Do you speak snail? Meow. What do you think about my ecosphere on my channel? Ostracods, cyclops in a wine bottle. Are you planning to make any ecosphere jars this summer? Probably. I can't promise anything, but I don't see a reason why not. I always want to make ecospheres. Why won't... Do your ecospheres make you feel like you're a god? Well, no. Maybe they should, but... well, it is weird though, for instance in the brine shrimp ecosphere or the triops that I had, to decide that those eggs that may be a few years old already, that I decided, well, you're going to hatch today or tomorrow. That's a bit weird to say, well, you're going to get born now. And I guess it's also weird that I decided that these animals that are in my jars are going to be in my jars. That these animals are in a closed ecosystem that is separated in a way from the ecosystem from the earth. That's quite a big thing if you think about it. But no, I don't feel like a god, no. Booty or boobies? Booty. Why are you gay? Well, I'm not gay, but why do you ask? Maybe you ask because you are insecure about being gay yourself. Not that there's anything wrong with being gay, Ian. I'm coming to Amsterdam soon. Are your canals okay for swimming in? Well, the Amstel River for sure. I swim in the Amstel a lot, so if you want to swim there, go for it. The other canals, well, I think you can swim in them. I don't really do that because I always swim in the Amstel. But every year there's the big ALS City Swim, so a lot of people are swimming in the canals then. They do get a shot for tetanus though, but I think that's not necessary. So if you want, I would say go for it, but if you die, it's not my fault. What does your search history look like? It's a lot of searches about little critters. I've searched thousands of species of springtails, and I've a lot of searches of little crustaceans. It's pretty biology stuff. Ant colony in terrarium ecosphere. That's not a question. But if you're asking me if it's a good idea to have an ant colony in a terrarium, well, I don't think so actually. Ant colonies can get quite big and they need an active source of food, and I don't think you can provide that in a closed ecosystem unless it's a really big closed ecosystem with flies and cockroaches and beetles. I don't think, let me put it this way, I'm not going to do that. Can you make a taste test video? Yes. Yes. No. What is the largest scale ecosphere you would consider making? Well, if you are referring to ecospheres that are more than a gallon in volume, well, I've made 3 of those. Those are 2.5 gallons. So that's a scale I already did. I would love to have a giant ecosphere like 50 liters or even bigger, but the biggest problem I'm facing with that now is lack of space. I already have one windowsill completely filled with ecospheres, and I just don't have that many room for a really big ecosphere. At some point, I really wanted to do an ecosphere in a large wine bottle of 50 liters, but I just don't have any space to put it. And if I'm going to go any bigger, I think at some point I would have to start building tanks or aquariums and turn those into ecospheres. So to answer your question, I have made quite a few big ecospheres. I would love to make even bigger ecospheres, but I just don't have that many room. Will you try to survive in a giant jar in the future? Well, I'm not going to try to survive, I am going to survive. Why not? Will you ever plan to make a paludarium in the future? I would love to make a paludarium. I don't know if you are talking about the paludarium ecosphere. I would love to do that as well. I actually already have plans for that, I just don't know when. And it would be a dream to have a really large tank with fish and crabs and shrimps and snails and frogs and worms and lizards. I really want to do that, but again, the biggest limiting factor is the space. I don't have that many space to have a big large paludarium. You know, this aquarium is quite big, but if I wanted to do it I would go even bigger, but this already takes up a lot of space. So, you know, if at some point I have 2 million subscribers and I make a lot of money and I have a huge house, then I will have 10 huge paludariums. So I really want to, but I don't have that many space. Did your seawater ecosphere smell like sulfur after a few months? I am asking because I made an ecosphere 3 years ago at work and opened it after 6 months when everything was dead in it. And it was like there was a chemical attack in the workplace. Everyone had to run outside and it smelled for the rest of the day. That sounds like it sucked. Well, I don't know, I haven't opened it yet. Because it is a closed ecosystem and it hasn't failed yet. There's still life in it, so I'm not going to open it either. If I open it, it probably won't smell really nice. I don't think it would smell like sulfur, and if I open it, it triggers a chemical attack. I don't hope so anyway, but I haven't opened it, so I don't know. I think it would be a fun project to do a monthly terrarium or ecosphere build for a year. You would have easy update videos to do every month. Also, as others have said, an ant colony or some other insect build would be cool to see. Plus it would be a good way to practice different editing techniques. Your thoughts? Well, my thoughts are, I would really love to do a monthly terrarium or ecosphere build, but again, I know it starts to get annoying by now, but I just don't have that many space to put them all. So again, if I have 2 million subscribers and a large house, I will definitely do that. Probably, but the problem is I will probably have to do it now to get 2 million subscribers. So my thoughts are, it's a great idea, I would really want to do that, but it's just pretty much impossible. So yeah, I have a starting ant colony right here. It has been a starting ant colony for a year now, but still it's a starting ant colony, and it's a lot of fun. I made a video about it if you want to watch it. I actually want to make isopod culture. I know isopods aren't insects, but I think that's a lot of fun as well. So yeah. What is the easiest creature to keep that reproduces and keeps the ecosphere going long term with new generations? Well, ostracods are definitely a great choice. They are really tiny and reproduce a lot and never die. I haven't had a single ecosphere where they didn't show up or where they have gone extinct. So those are a great choice, and they reproduce a lot as well. Same goes for cyclops and copepods in general. They will do great in ecospheres. They will reproduce. I've never had copepods go extinct in an ecosphere either. Daphnia aren't a great choice. Daphnia, although they might seem easy to keep, well, they are easy to keep, but not in a closed ecosphere. I haven't had that many success in ecospheres with Daphnia. In some ecospheres they totally disappeared. In others they nearly disappeared. There's only a few individuals left, so Daphnia aren't a great choice. I think bladder snails actually are a great choice as well. They are interesting animals. They are quite big, relatively speaking. They reproduce a lot. They can do pretty well in pretty much any environment. I haven't had bladder snails disappear in any ecosphere either, so my top 3 picks are probably ostracods, bladder snails, copepods in any given order. Is there a way to stop mold from growing in the ecospheres? Ultimately, no. If mold wants to grow, mold will grow. But what you can do to prevent mold from growing is you can make sure that the ecosphere or terrarium is not too humid to start out with. So make sure it's not too wet. Don't give it too much water. Other than that, if mold wants to grow, then mold will grow. You can go with pesticides, but well, you will ruin the ecosphere as well. So I'm afraid not. I would love to see someone try triops. I tried triops successfully as well, but if you are referring to triops ecosphere, well, that's impossible, because triops eggs need to have a dry period and then need to have a wet period before they will hatch. So if there's no dry period, then there's no triops babies. So it's impossible to have an ecosphere where you after 2 months completely drain it and then fill it with water again. because, well, you have to open it and then it's not a closed ecosystem. But just regular try-ups, I did that. How often does an ecosphere fail? I can't really tell. I have been pretty lucky with my ecospheres. I can't remember actually having an ecosphere fail. Terrariums are really easy, they will fail. Closed terrariums are extremely difficult, but ecospheres with water, they will last, at least in my experience, they will last very long. I haven't had an ecosphere fail yet, but I know a lot of people have, so I can't really answer that question, I'm afraid. Do you feel bad when an ecosphere you make fails? As if you've done a bad thing? Not really, actually, because most of the ecospheres that I have only contain animals that aren't very intelligent, like small crustaceans and snails. I don't really feel bad if they die, honestly, because, well, I feed my fish crustaceans very often and they're just not sentient. They don't, the only real emotion they feel, if any, is pain, physical pain. So I don't really feel bad if an ecosphere crashes. In the Ecosphere I have that one crab. I did kind of feel bad when that died, but as I explained in the video, I didn't put it in there intentionally, and if I had tried to take it out and go back to the sea, then it probably would have died anyway. So its best chances of survival were in the ecosphere, but still, you know, it felt a little bit off that a crab died in my ecosphere. I didn't really like that. But it's, so ecospheres, if they fail, I don't really feel bad. But if a fish in my aquarium died before it was time for it to die because it was young, then I feel way worse. I really don't like that feeling. So that's way worse for me than an ecosphere failing. Where can I find springtails in the Netherlands? I want to set up a small farm. You can find springtails in the Netherlands everywhere. If you go outside and go anywhere near some dirt, you will find springtails, guaranteed. Probably if you have any pots with plants at home with dirt in them, there's a really big chance there are springtails in there as well. So, you know, just keep your eye out. They're really small, so pay attention and be patient, but if you try, you will find springtails, guaranteed. I absolutely love all your videos. Everything is always so well put together with subtle humor. Plus the helpful info has really been useful for all my aquariums. Well, thanks Steven. I appreciate that. What is the number one thing you look for or add into these self-sustaining jars? When starting out with an ecosphere, the most important thing is to try to start with a balanced ecosphere. So make sure there's plenty of animals, plenty of algae or plants, plenty of air, plenty of water. An ecosphere is never perfect from the start. The ecosystem in it will develop over time. You know, it's not a perfect line like this, but it will go like this, if that makes any sense. So it takes some time for the ecosphere, for every component in the ecosphere to balance out so that you have the right amount of everything. But you try to start with the right amount of everything in the ecosphere. That's probably my number one tip. If you want to see my jars and aquariums, it's all on Instagram at aqua_prawn. I actually looked at his Instagram page and it's really nice. So, have you considered making an exotic ecosphere with non-native species, where you choose all of the species that get introduced into the setup? I have. The problem with exotic species is that they're not indigenous, so it's hard to get. them, but I really want to do, let's call it an artificial ecosphere, not just straight from nature, but with exotic species. Maybe even species from all over the world, from Asia, the Americas, Europe, Africa. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. It's just going to prove really hard to do that, but I want to someday, yes. Do you ever have dreams of ponds full of life? That's all I dream of. You know, it really sucks. I don't have a garden. If I had, I would have had a pond in there, guaranteed. I love ponds, I love aquariums, I love all aquatic life, I love all life. Yes. What is your favorite creature found in jars? That's a difficult question. Pretty much every creature I find in a jar I think is fascinating. You know, every animal, if you dive deep into that animal and if you do research, the animal becomes really fascinating. So you can show me any animal and I'll be fascinated by that animal. My favorite creature in a jar, well, I really like the aquatic isopods because they're unique to the spring ecosphere, and they're very cool to watch and interesting. I really like those. Hydras, I think they are awesome as well, because of the way they reproduce and so. So I made a video about that as well. It's called Attack of the Hydra. And in the Ecosphere, it was fun to find the polychaete sand mason worm of Spion. It was actually that was really cool to see. You can actually see it build a house. But I hope that my favorite creature in a jar is a creature that I still have to find in the jar. What is the best way to make a native ecosphere? Well, like I said before, if you want to start out an ecosphere, you want to balance it as much as you can from the start. So have the right amount of algae, right amount of plants, right amount of animals, right amount of bacteria, right amount of air, right amount of water. In a native ecosphere, the easiest thing I think is just to go to a pond that looks healthy and just scoop some water from there and scoop some dirt from there, and well, you're pretty much good to go. Has the water from your jars ever attracted mosquitoes? Or how many times has a wriggler hitchhiked on the container while collecting water? Well, the jars are closed, so the water doesn't attract mosquitoes, but I have had mosquitoes hatch in, well, mayfly actually, hatch in the mini ecosphere and also in the spring ecosphere, a lot actually. So they do come from the water in the ecosphere, but not from the air in the ecosphere. I have several questions. First question, what are the best ways to acquire microcrustaceans to make my ecosphere more lively? If you go to a pond and you scoop the water from there, there's pretty much 100% chance that there are microcrustaceans in there, so you can't really go wrong there. Second question, what is the best way to position my ecosphere so that I will get enough sunlight without the gases inside expanding from heat and causing it to leak gas or be at risk of exploding? Never put your ecospheres in direct sunlight. That's rule number one, because they will heat up very fast and pretty much kill everything inside. So I have my ecospheres on the windowsill on the east side, not the southeast, facing southeast. So in the summer they get a glimpse of sunlight for about 10 minutes, but through multiple layers of glass, so they survive that. But other than that, no direct sunlight. Third question, how do I keep my ecosphere from becoming an anaerobic environment? honestly, I can't help you with that, I'm afraid. Just if you try to set all the conditions right from the start, then there's a bigger chance it will remain successful. But if it's becoming anaerobic, there's pretty much nothing you can do. Well, those were all the questions that were submitted for this Q&A. I hope I answered them to your satisfaction. If you have any more questions, well, you should have been earlier. Maybe I will do another Q&A in the future. Until then, you can rewatch some of my old videos that didn't get much attention. But thank you for watching. Bye!